Ever since update 4.0 for Battlefield 2042, the game has been playing a whole lot better. It feels a lot more stable, and a lot of those sort of key issues that were happening within the the gameplay of Battlefield 2042, they are a lot better than they were previously. But I think because a lot of those areas have actually improved, there are a few new things that are sort of surfacing, or I guess resurfacing, because these have been issues already in the past. Purely because once certain stuff gets fixed, that obviously draws more attention to the stuff that hasn't been fixed yet. There are two key elements of the gameplay that, in my opinion right now, are getting very, very frustrating. There's obviously plenty wrong with this game, but in terms of the actual gameplay side of things, the last update did improve it quite a bit. Most of the key issues with this game now are more to do with the design choices and more of those like overarching key elements to the game, such as like the specialists and the map design and all, the missing features and stuff like that. But one thing, or I guess there are actually two things that I'm talking about in this video, those being Boris's turret as well as the Ranger. They are massively affecting the gameplay at the moment, and they're not affecting it in a positive way. Now, just quickly before we get into the video, I have to give a big shout out to my partners at Glitch Energy. As of some of their recent changes, Glitch is now the healthiest energy drink on the entire market. I pretty much drink Glitch every day, every other day, just to help me get through those long work days, or even get through a workout as well. And knowing that I'm not really damaging my body by taking, energy drinks and stuff like that, it is definitely a very good feeling. So if you guys are keen on getting some Glitch Energy, you can head to glitchenergy.com. The link is down in the description, and if you guys use my code, which is code SAMMY, you can get 25% off your purchases as well. So be sure to go and check that out. But with that being said, let's get stuck into the video. So like I said, there is plenty wrong with this game, and I think we all have about 100 things that we really want to get fixed. But the two things that I'm talking about today, I think these are relatively easy fixes compared to the specialist system and the map changes and all that kind of thing. Those are more like long-term massive changes to the game, whereas I think they can make some really quick changes to Boris's turret as well as the Ranger that are going to essentially instantly impact the game and make it feel a lot more enjoyable to play. Because I think with the game being in a better state now, that it is kind of revealing a lot more stuff that wasn't as big of an issue in the past, obviously because there were bigger fish to fry, I guess you would say. But this is just how it's going to be. As soon as something gets fixed, we're going to start to notice some other things that we didn't really notice that much beforehand. And for me personally, and I know for a lot of other people in the community, Boris's turret and the Ranger are definitely those things right now. Pretty much since the launch of the game, or at least maybe like a month after launch, because I think not that many people used Boris straight away, but I would say since like December or January, Boris's turret has been one of the most annoying things with the game in terms of just being overused. It's pretty much half the people in the lobby feel like they're using Boris, and although his turret isn't actually that powerful in terms of like you can take them out pretty quickly, they do deal quite a bit of damage, and there are times when you simply just get killed before you can even react to it. So the turret is kind of bordering on overpowered. I don't think it's quite there, but for me it is more just essentially annoying. Like it is more just of a nuisance within the game rather than an actual game-breaking issue. The amount of times you're getting shot at and you can just tell it's a turret because it's not missing any shots. You might be zigzagging and doing your best to get out of the way of those bullets, and they essentially just hit you every time. It's like it's completely legal aimbot at the end of the day. So like I said, I don't think it's necessarily overpowered, but it is definitely very annoying. And when you have 20 of them on the other side, it does sometimes feel like you can't even go out in the open without getting shot by multiple of these turrets at once. Now, I've seen a lot of ideas floating around the community, but one of the best ones that I've seen is that instead of Boris's turret being an automatic turret, maybe it's a turret that he can actually place down and then actually manually use it, and it maybe does a lot more damage than his regular weapons, for example, but the player who's using Boris has to actually use that turret rather than it just being a literal aimbot sitting completely on the other side of the map. He doesn't even have to be close to it. And for me personally, that is actually something that I think would be a really good fix to it, because obviously it's not as simple as just deleting it from the game or like nerfing it massively. At the end of the day, it is just quite literally an aimbot, and so unless they massively tone down the the accuracy or something like that, I don't think they're going to be able to fix it. Because even if they reduce the damage by like 50% or even more than that, it's not about being killed by it. It's honestly more just annoying than anything. And if it's an automatic turret, it's going to have some level of aimbot. It's kind of the same thing with the AI soldiers. They sometimes just get really annoying because they're not that good, but they just always seem to hit you. So personally, I think that sort of idea of actually turning it into a manual turret that maybe has like the little guard, the little armor that they have on the top of Humvees, for example, putting that on it so that when Boris is on it, it gets a little bit of cover, but Boris has to actually use it, and that requires a little bit of skill. Because for me right now, it is just something that you can just put down. It requires absolutely no skill whatsoever, and we all know that at the end of every single game, Boris is always on that like end of round screen because they get the most assists, they get the most spots, and I guarantee probably the large majority of those Boris players are not even good players at all. So for me, that's the way that I think they should fix it. Like I said, they can't really just delete it because it is his ability. It's closely tied to one of the characters, so they're going to have to do something, you know, pretty drastic about it. I don't think they can just nerf it at the end of the day, but hopefully we do hear something about that soon. Now, in terms of the Rangers are actually like kind of the opposite in a way. They aren't all that strong in terms of their damage. They do deal a fair bit of damage if you're way in the open and like they're pretty close to you. They will kill you at the end of the day, but for me, it's kind of the opposite. They just take way too long to kill. You can literally empty like 5 clips into them and they don't die. It's actually ridiculous how strong they are. And once again, they are not player controlled, so you just put them down and they just do the work for you. And like I said, when you see an enemy one, you can't really do much about it. If you've got explosives, then you can do that, or obviously if you've got like a, say, the NTW, you can take them out pretty quickly, but most players out there on the battlefield aren't really equipped to take them out anytime soon. So I think there's a few ways that they can kind of nerf the Rangers as well. One would obviously just be massively nerfing their health. They honestly could get like a 300% nerf on their health, and I think they'd still be pretty decent. So that's probably the easiest one for me. But then also, just like the idea for Boris's turret, actually making these player controlled would be pretty cool. Again, you'd have to make sure that they're not overpowered, because they would, if they're player controlled, they'd probably be even stronger than they are now. But I think when the trailer dropped and we saw that first Ranger, probably most of us assumed that that was like player controlled. Me personally, I actually thought it was going to be someone's ability within the game, but no, it turns out it's just something you call in and then it just goes and does all of your work for you. So once again, I would actually love to see those be player controlled, and honestly, if they were player controlled, I'd probably use them more than I do now, because at the moment I don't think I've ever honestly called in a Ranger. Like, they're just something that I don't see the point in doing, but then obviously a lot of other people do, because they're just all around the place and they're so annoying. So I'd love to see those become player controlled. Obviously that's a pretty big change. That's not something that they can do overnight, so that's maybe reaching a little bit, but they definitely could just nerf their health by quite a bit, because like I said, they're not actually that overpowered in terms of dealing a heap of damage. They do need to nerf the aimbot just like they do with Boris's turret, but once again, I don't think they're necessarily overpowered in terms of their damage output. So that is just what I personally think needs to be done, because like I said, these are like immediate issues with the actual gameplay of the game. There's a lot of missing features, there's a lot of issues like the specialist system and the maps and all that kind of stuff, but those are all pretty big like elements of the game, and they're obviously already working on that. Whereas these issues, they are becoming like nearing on game breaking issues where it's just not enjoyable to actually play the game. For me personally, luckily I don't come across them all that often, but I see it so much in the community. A lot of people, a lot of my mates, and just a lot of people on like YouTube comments and stuff like that are just saying the game is becoming unplayable because of these things. So personally, I think this is one of the more pressing issues, at least when it comes to the gameplay anyway. Like I said, specialists, all that kind of stuff is probably more important in the long run, but these fixes seem like they could be done in the next update. For example, a simple nerf shouldn't be that hard compared to completely redesigning the specialist or something like that. So I thought I'd just put that video out there anyway. I've seen a few other creators doing the same thing. Shout out to my boys Squid and Lossy. I think they've made videos on the exact same topic, and to be honest, the more that people, you know, whinge about it and make it known, hopefully the more likely that will be that the developers see that and hopefully get around to nerfing it. So that is going to do it for this one. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of both whether they are overpowered or not, as well as any ideas that you guys have for nerfs or whatever the case may be. So I'm keen to hear your thoughts on that, but with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.